So we are moving on to a second testing talk. We're going to hear from the EDA hardware and testing lead, Trevor Graff. So take it away, Trevor.
All right, thanks, Kelsey. Apologize for our videos there it goes, it switched over. So let me just start out by saying this is, efforts of a very large team at JSC and across many NASA centers. And in 5 minutes, I'm just going to broad brush touch on some of the integrated Artemis testing activities that have been going on. Next slide. So this should look familiar to some folks. Sarah showed some of these pictures at the LPSC. And the way I structured this was take a look back in 2021 and entire portfolio of activities that we did. And then the next slide will show the portfolio for 2022. Again, this is just a toe dip into some of the activities that are going across multiple NASA centers and in different themes. The themes on the left-hand side should look familiar to you. Kelsey talked a lot about those in the AOA stat report. Those are derived from some other ConOps documents. And they cover the broad brush of things in science, from imaging, sampling, navigation, and then hardware things that we've talked about today, like geology tools, the rovers, and then the suits and much more. Again, going from left to right on this slide, we've done a lot in 2021 at the JSC Rockyard. You can see a picture there, a night eval with the ConOps documents, a cuff checklist. We've done a number of testing activities in 2021 at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab and getting that facility up and running to be up and sustaining activities for lunar surface operations at the bottom of the pool. So you see some of the activities there in 2021. The third picture across from left to right is the active gravity offload system at JSC in Building 9. And so there's been a number of suit activities and mobility activities in that facility. Great team and great facility that is even looking at expanding going forward. So a lot of that has been sustaining and going in the planning phase for future activities. And then as Barbara just talked about, we've been also getting out into the field. One of those things was in 2021 with the capabilities that Barbara just talked about. And we're looking at an in-depth portfolio of field activities moving into 2022, as you'll see. Before we move off to this slide, I just want to say that these activities really serve to bring together the skill sets from a variety of team members, from science, the engineering, the operations. It's fantastic to be involved in these and get that crosstalk between these different disciplines moving forward. Next slide. So for 2022, we've already done a number of hardware evaluations. So you see a mock-up prototype suit for field evaluations that we're taking an in-depth look at. On the left-hand side, we're planning to go back to an increasingly high-fidelity lunar-like terrain to do testing. You saw this picture in Adam's talk recently to talk about tools, but now we're trying to start adding these different layers of high-fidelity suit mock-ups and tools in high-fidelity lunar-like terrain to really amp up our game in a field environment. Barbara and through the AOA stat and other documents talk about how important lunar South Pole lighting conditions are. So we're trying to figure out how to best represent those in a number of different field and local JSC environments. Technology demonstrations like what Barbara just talked about with Desert Rats activities in 2022. And then also another critical piece is what's happening back in mission control, and that's the operational testing that is part of the portfolio and all of this testing. Next slide. So this slide, my final slide, just kind of shows how we're trying to put all these critical pieces together to accomplish the near-term mission. So in red, you've heard a lot about these things today with the AOA stat, how critical the science definition report still is, and the EVA 0042 document is up there. I encourage folks to go take a look at that. That's a public document. These are all the things that are ConOps objectives, gaps, and risks that we're trying to drive down with this testing. In yellow, you see the hardware. This is not comprehensive, by any means, but just to show the number of things that we're incorporating from the tools, the backpacks, the suit mock-ups, the pressurized suit testing, the lighting, the camera mock-ups, things like that that are coming together quickly. All the different organizations and key skill sets you see there, engineering, the flight operations directorate, the EVA management office, the human health and performance folks, the crew office, really critical to the integrated picture. I talked about those testing facilities, not only at the JSC and other NASA centers, but using field expeditions to fulfill our training needs, including VR. So that's what the VR glasses are there. Another critical piece that we're looking into of how VR can play a big role in our training. And then we're constantly having training events. A number of them already occurred in 2022, looking for a number more to occur, and that ramp is probably just going to continue to go exponential for the number of events and the number of activities going on. Leveraging a lot of partnerships, and you see some of the things that have been talked about today, like the survey forums and other activities, other organizations. So with that, I apologize for being a minute over, but I will take questions at the end of the session.
Thanks very much, Trevor.